everyone. I'm Darian Gold, and welcome to All Things Pilates Season 6. As we dig deeper into the life of a contrologist, this season's guest list shares what the Pilates methodology can offer to anyone who desires health and wellness. On this show, we'll explore, seek, and investigate what's possible when we incorporate contrology into our lives. Hey, all you studio and home apparatus owners. How often do you clean and maintain your apparatus? Were you ever shown how to properly care for your equipment? Our guest today is T. Encarnacion, who is the owner of Pilates Pro Maintenance, located in New York City, and he and his company service equipment in studios and in homes throughout the country. T will help us understand why we need to maintain our equipment, and will share a few tips on how to make our apparatus babies last as long as we do. Welcome to the show, T.
Thank you, Darian. Thank you for having me in All Things Pilates. Very exciting.
Yes, thank you. T, why and how did you begin a pro maintenance Pilates business?
That's actually a question that I get often, and the story is starting to become very memorized by me. And I tell the story often, and it's basically, it was a time where my nephew Carlos was working at Westside Pilates with Adrienne Yergosky. This was in 2018. And one day I walked in and I saw that he had a Grotz reformer turned over. He had the carriage upside down on the floor, and screws, nuts, and bolts were everywhere. I had a moment where I freaked out and I was like, dude, what are you doing? Why don't we just call the people that do this? Where's the company that does this? And Adrienne came out of the office and she said, there is no company that does this. And that's when I had a really baffling moment understanding, like that she had over $100,000 worth of equipment and that nobody had given her service or even instructions on how to service her equipment. There was no system at the time. And that's when I started servicing her equipment, other local studios around the area, and so on. And now we're international.
Was that the first time you saw a reformer, the carriage turned over?
That's the first time it even crossed my mind that it needed service. I knew that I had to tighten things. So I had already basically looked at the equipment, made sure that eye hooks were straight and that nothing was unsafe before that. But for the first time, I had seen the wheels off of the reformer. I had seen the bottom of the carriage. And it was my nephew who was there cleaning the wheels, cleaning all the washers. He had not the white lithium grease that we use today. It was like he had a little bucket of grease basically, and he was trying to get it onto the screws. It was also not as organized as what you see nowadays when we post our pictures, where everything looks super neat and tidy and all the washers are next to each other, and it almost looks like we're going to take a picture of it every time. But that's literally the way the service is now. And yeah, it was just a moment of clarity there where I said, there's no way that, someone has sold you all this equipment. And I thought of all the other studio owners and thought of them doing their own equipment. Even Adrienne herself, I thought of her using tools, and I thought it's just unreasonable for someone to have to learn how to use tools to maintain their...
Not because she's a female, though.
Not at all. It's just because maybe, she liked her hands clean. And I saw that this job required to get your hands kind of really dirty into the grease.
Did you grow up working on cars?
Well, my brother had a car shop where we installed electronics and all kinds of things on cars. So I was already used to using tools. And I was used to having a system where all the screws and nuts and bolts had to be really ordered. You couldn't miss one. Otherwise, you couldn't put the car back together. So when I saw my nephew with everything just kind of like all over the place, I freaked out and I said, okay, this is really expensive. Call the company. And there happened to be no company.
Yes. We talked about this way back in the early 2000s. It seems so obvious, really, that you have this apparatus that, yes, you're spending a lot of money on. How the hell do you take care of it? It just wasn't, that kind of information wasn't delivered to us at that time.
Yeah.
So you're filling an amazing niche, and it's growing probably beyond what you expected or imagined, right?
Yes. I mean, I didn't even know at the time that Pilates studios had spread to the furthest corners of the world. I thought I knew there were a lot in New York City and I knew there were a lot in some cities, but in the last 6 years, I've been to everywhere from the San Juan Islands to the middle of nowhere in Texas, or it doesn't matter which state or which country you're in. There's a Pilates studio somewhere in that country or in that state. Not only a Pilates studio, but there's many in every state.
It makes me so happy for Joe.
He really did a good job
Yeah,
spreading out this knowledge and his disciples as well.
100%. T, what would you say is your main focus?
My main focus for the company is to provide the most accurate and efficient service along with information to anyone who owns or works with Pilates apparatus. That's the main focus, is to make sure that everyone at least knows the basics of it. I believe it's important for everyone to know the basics of the apparatus that they're using every day and that they're using to help other people rehabilitate, and as well as to how to maintain it. Maybe you shouldn't know how to do the whole service, but maybe you should know what it entails at least. For example, if you drive a car, at bare minimum, you should know how to fill it with gas, right? Like if you don't know how where
You're in
where
trouble.
to open up the gas tank, chances are you'll be stuck somewhere. I mean, others might agree that you should even know a little bit more than that, considering that you are the one operating the machine. My
Yes.
dad would say you should know how to change your wheels and you should know how to change
Yes.
your oil, things like that. Regardless of how much you know, the main thing to know when operating any machine, or in this case, Pilates apparatus, is to make sure you're safe. So if you don't even know that it's safe, then that's where we start to have a problem. Like, okay, you're using eye hooks that are on the verge of breaking, or springs that can fly across the room and hurt someone, which they have. And it's very unfortunate that not so many people know how to stay safe.
In your travels, though, when you go to a studio that, let's say, for example, they have either one studio or a number of studios and they have a program, is the maintenance piece included? Or if not, obviously you would encourage certification programs to have that for people to understand before they spend $100,000.
The studios that I've been visiting, I don't think anyone integrates the maintenance of the equipment
Not at
at
all
all.
yet.
They point out the parts of the apparatus. These are the shoulder blocks. There's the headrest. Here's the football, and that's as far as it goes.
What would be a typical service call? Can you describe one for us?
A regular service call is usually the client that calls and says, "I want my equipment serviced." Most of the time they say, "Can you clean my equipment?" Right? And then we have to kind of like educate them a little bit and say, "Okay, we're not like a cleaning company, but this is what we do. We will make sure that your straps are even, that your foot bar is safe, that your springs are safe." And depending on the brand of the apparatus, they need different services. So, for example, a Gratz requires a more extensive service where we have to take off all the wheels and re-grease them and lubricate all the moving parts just because it's composed differently.
What's the easiest? Which company has the easiest maintenance experience for you?
The easiest, I guess, in my opinion, the easiest would be the either the balance body or peak apparatus. Those are the easiest to maintain. Just
The modern.
yeah, and it's just in comparison to Gratz or Pilates designs. These pieces of apparatus don't require for you to take off the wheels or to re-grease the
That's one of the
actual.
big differences
Yeah, that's
then.
the main difference. Everything else, it's kind of general where you check for safety, you calibrate the straps, or in their case, ropes. Same thing with the towers or the chairs. You just want to make sure the springs are safe, that the eye hooks are safe. But the main difference in those services are the main wheels that are under the carriage.
It's the actual design.
It's the actual design, and a lot of apparatus looks the same, but doesn't require the same
Doesn't
service.
feel the same, that's for sure.
And it definitely doesn't feel the same as a teacher and as a practitioner.
The nuances.
Yeah, not to mention any specific brands, but sometimes they look like the thing and they're not the thing.
Oh
That's
my
all
gosh.
I can say.
That's it. That's a tagline right there for you.
Yeah.
It might look like the thing, but it's not the thing.
Yeah, that's just to be vague in general about it. But, sometimes.
Well, okay, so in general, how often should Pilates equipment be serviced?
Well, the answer to that question depends on usage, really. I mean, we have studios we visit once a month because their traffic is so high. They have a teacher training program, and the liability is just so high at that point because it's just like people almost 12 hours of the day, all the time on the equipment, all 7 days a week. All Pilates apparatus should be checked for safety at least once a year. At bare minimum, all springs should be checked at least once a year for inconsistent opening of the coils, any gaps between them, check for rust, kinks, or even the clips that are being put on the springs. They do wear out and break eventually. So,
What does eventually mean?
well, the shape of those clips or the links that for example, the push through bar spring is on, those wear out very oftenly, and they start wearing in a way that they become thinner and thinner until the pressure of the spring eventually breaks the link or the clip. So yeah, they do wear, they do break. And I think that even if you don't,
For every equipment line,
for every equipment line, clips and links should be checked.
because all the down pressure or the up pressure from the spring.
Yeah, I mean I like to use the push through spring as an example because it has one of the most tensions out of every spring. I think besides the trapeze bar, it's probably the strongest spring that we're using all the time. And that pressure does take a toll on the clips or links that are on them.
Okay, so this just segues very nicely to your toolkit that you have on your website that you sell.
Yeah.
And during our pre interview, we were talking about what your toolkit consists of. And I had a question, especially if you're working on the Gratz reformer in particular, your hands get that black residue.
Yeah,
So,
it's grease.
yes, the grease. So, some of us probably don't want to wear gloves. And I was asking you, what kind of solution would be the best? Is there something that's better than, let's just say, dish soap?
We recommend two-wear gloves when doing the service on the Gratz apparatus or on any reformer that requires the cleaning and re-greasing of the wheels, like the Pilates design or
Do
anything
you
like
sell
that.
gloves?
We do sell gloves and we do send gloves with the toolkit. However, you will need to
Replace.
refill your inventory of gloves. It's also going to depend on the hand and one that fits you well. We recommend gloves that actually do fit snug because they do change the feel of when you're
For
doing the
sure.
service. It does become more challenging to manage small washers and screws with gloves on, which is why we sometimes during our services don't wear gloves. Once we're done with the service, we wash our hands thoroughly about 3 times to try to remove as much grease as possible. But we don't recommend any harsh chemicals or solutions to clean your hands. I mean, there are so many things out there that mechanics use, when they're done working on cars, they have these harsh chemicals to remove it. We're against that, so we try not to use anything harsh on our hands. We rather just wash them with kind of like hand soap or dish soap multiple times.
Okay. Okay. What's in your toolkit?
Well, it depends on which piece of apparatus you have. So depending on the brand, the toolkit changes and you will need different tools.
Oh, say more. Give an example.
So, for example, for the Grok's toolkit, we make sure that we send the right keys, the right wrenches, and the right socket wrenches that you will need to take off the main wheels and to take off the back wheels. We also have the exact Allen key instead of a set of Allen keys that you will need to take off the side wheels and to check the spring bar and to check the foot bar, which are the same size Allen keys. But it's best to just have the specific one instead of going through a bunch of Allen keys. Something that differs in that toolkit is the grease itself. So we send them a tube of white lithium grease, which is what they will need to use to relubricate the axle screws.
So that would be more of a classical apparatus toolkit. What about for the modern contemporary?
For the modern contemporary, what we have noticed is that a lot of the washers do break, a lot of spare parts do break, nuts. So we send them that in the toolkit. We also send different size wrenches, different size Allen keys that they require for their service. And they also require some oiling for some of their wheels. And that's what we send to those owners of the apparatus.
Do you notice a big difference between the spring calibration of the Gratz and Pilates designs opposed to, like, let's say, Balance Body?
Yeah, I mean, different manufacturers use different tensions on their springs. For example, Balance Body has color-coded springs, and these colors will tell you the tension of the spring. Mostly for the classical apparatus, there are no colors. It's usually like one tension for all. And that's how we learn to teach. Different calibration, it depends on the program you go through, depends on what you're trained in, and what you're used to working with. Can you compare them? Yeah, there's a way to find the right tension from one piece of apparatus to the other, but you would have to feel it in your own body. Maybe do a short spine on two red springs and one blue spring to see what that feels like. And then you can compare it to what Gratz two springs feels like, and so on.
If you have access to both, not everybody has access.
If you have access to both, of course, then, or if you ever had to, go from teaching in classical apparatus to contemporary, I suggest and I recommend, because I do it myself, is that I feel the exercises myself and to see what they feel like. I don't want to give rowing to someone in, for example, three springs of Gratz, right? That would be just incredible.
God, impossible.
So that's what could happen if you pick the wrong spring in the different type of apparatus. You could give him a high tension spring that's equivalent to like three Gratz springs, and you're just asking them to pull harder, but you don't know what it feels like.
Well, speaking of that and how dangerous that could be, what are your thoughts about standardizing maintenance requirements?
Well, I think it's important that there is some kind of standard for the Pilates equipment and the maintenance of it. This is almost in comparison close to like driving a car. And insurance will not cover you if you haven't had your car inspected, or owning a home. To get home insurance, they require some kind of inspection. So we're looking at a future where insurance companies are going to kind of require you to have your equipment safe, or guarantee them that you're trying your best to keep the equipment safe for them to cover you or give you a reasonable rate. Otherwise, you are at risk of having accidents and them having to cover you for that. And that's a conversation that we are having in the near future with insurance companies.
So there would be some sort of entity that would give a seal of approval?
Yeah, we're working on a seal of approval already to give to studios that do get regular service, so that they can show their insurance companies, hey, look, we are getting inspected, we are safe. All these points were checked, at least, a minimum amount of points that were checked in the Pilates apparatus.
How many employees does Pilates Pro Maintenance have? Or can you count? It's just growing.
Yeah, well, it's funny. All right, in the past 6 years, we've grown quite a lot.
So first, just started with you, just you.
Yeah. It was just me running around doing services. Adrienne Yagoski actually used to help me, and she used to service the side wheels for me while I did the other ones, and that's how we started this in the beginning.
Is that how you two started? Is that too personal?
Well, that is how it started. That is definitely how it started.
Hey, you became close over wheels. I love it.
Over wheels and over practicing Pilates myself. I definitely
Wonderful.
hurted my body before I became a technician.
Yes.
But our team.
Okay, so it started with you, and then Adrienne helped you out, and then you started to grow. And where are you now?
6 years later, I feel like we can probably say that we've completed over 2,000 services on Gratz reformers or on reformers in general.
Wow.
And if you speak about the rest of the Pilates apparatus, I think we've serviced over 5,000 pieces of equipment in the past 6 years.
How many though? How many people are helping you?
Our team consists of about 25 individuals right now. And it's covering from all types of positions, from manufacturing to upholstering, consulting, installations. We have technicians and, of course, the administration team. They're awesome at the office, keeping up with all this demand. And even some advisors that help me, figure out better systems on how to do this better, more accurately, and spread the service with quality control, of course.
And everyone has been open to you and your company.
Yes, I feel like at the beginning we reached out to a manufacturer that wasn't too happy with what we were about to do. Maybe they thought that we were about to take their plans and start making equipment, but that wasn't the case. We were never interested in making apparatus at all. We just wanted to provide service, like literally just service to what's already made. Then we reached out to Gratz.
Did that company finally get it?
I don't think they had any other choice after dozens and dozens of their own clients started saying, hey, Pilates Pro Maintenance was just here, and they say, this is what's happening, and here are the pictures and the videos. I think eventually they came around to say, okay, these guys are moving around, just trying
They're not threatening us.
No, not at all. I mean, they're still on the edge whenever I come into their factory, and they're like, okay, no pictures, no videos, no anything. And I'm like, okay, like, it's totally fine. So, it was challenging in the beginning, but everyone came around to understand that we are just trying to keep everyone safe. We have fun doing it. We have fun meeting other Pilates instructors. It's just a fun environment. We try to keep it that way.
That's smart. In our pre-interview, you also mentioned in your travels that every side of every story. What did you mean about that?
Oh man, I'll try not to say too much about that actually.
You can say, it's okay.
What I meant is that the Pilates world seems to be divided in many different classifications.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like classification within classification. And even in the classical world, they've been divided. In the contemporary, they're divided. And now there are all these groups of people that seem to all want to be right.
Yes.
And although they all have their reasons, to be right, I understand that different programs and different prodigies, different generations had different things going on. We believe that with Pilates Pro and the collaboration of Global Pilates Organization, we can aim to unify anyone who teaches or practices Pilates in a safe way. Most people that I've met around the world, they started teaching Pilates because they fell in love with it. They fell in love with what they did to their bodies, the impact they had in their lives, and the impact they had on other people's lives. I feel like somewhere along the line, many people got lost in politics and forgot.
Well, there wasn't good leadership at all.
I agree. I feel like everyone was just pulling up to their side and trying to be politically correct in every part of Pilates. And they forgot about the fun part that attracted them in the first place, what got them into want to be Pilates instructors.
Absolutely.
And I also, in my opinion, as long as it's being done safely, there's so much to learn from every single division and generation of Pilates.
Agreed. And we continue to need good leaders who don't have an agenda, if that's possible.
Yeah, if it's possible. I think it is very possible to unify it in a way where if it's safe, then we should hear them out. There are all kinds of contemporary teachers that are physical therapists, for example, or they train professional athletes. And it would be, I think, ignorant to say that there's nothing you can learn from them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's an entire synthesis of contrology.
It is contrology.
Whether people call it contrology or not, that's the genesis.
It is. And everybody's different. We know based on teaching that we're taught to teach a certain way, but then your everyday client that walks through the door is not the perfect body athlete. We have all kinds of injuries and limitations.
Totally. All kinds of issues, mental issues, spiritual issues, psychological issues, and then it all shows up in the body.
Yeah. And there's ways to deal with it differently. And many people have different techniques for example, even the mental issues, like you say, right? Sometimes a person is just like so overwhelmed with life, and you have to kind of like use another technique that may not be in the contrology system to say, okay, just take a second and breathe. Just like take 5 breaths on that Cadillac for a second and don't do anything, right? And then after the fifth breath, you could probably say on your exhale, maybe pull your abdominals in. You
Wonderful.
know?
I love that. Yes. That's smart. I can tell you're a great teacher just by saying that. It's true because as Ramona taught us, of course, you work with the body that's in front of you, but you have to use your own sensitivities and your own sense of what happens in your body when you're not feeling 100%. What do you do for yourself? And how can you take that information and help the people that are in front of you?
I agree.
I used to have one student, bless her heart. I just one day I knew that she had a lot of tension in her neck, and I have great hands. And I said, "Come over here." And I put her on her back on the Cadillac, and I started working her neck. She became so relaxed. She said to me, "Do we have to do Pilates? Can you just work on my neck for the
Oh,
whole hour?" I said, "Okay." After that, every time she came in, we had to devote a certain amount of time for me to put my hands under her occipital area and just let her have a moment or moments where she could just drop in, as they say. And then she was ready, and I could kick her butt for maybe 15 minutes, and then she wanted to talk. It's those kind of people, but they leave happy and they want to come back. So who are we to say they didn't get a full hour of contrology?
well, again, what got us into it in the first place is how we impact people's lives. At least for me, I really enjoy the feeling that I get when a client says, even if they're like kicking and crying throughout the whole session, at the end,
Their
99%
smiles.
is a smile. And they just stand tall at the door and they're just like, I just feel so much taller. I
So
feel so much
good.
better.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the main gratifications of teaching Pilates,
Yes. Whatever the Pilates approach is.
whatever the approach is, as long as it's safe, as long as we're using the equipment safely, which is what Pilates Pro Maintenance likes to assure. Not much on the teaching style or what you do when you're teaching, but that at least the equipment is safe and that it can withhold the things that you're trying on it.
Hey everyone, want to level up your teaser? When I'm not interviewing or editing, I'm helping students just like you get to the next level. If you'd like to understand the Contrology technique, come learn from me, whether online or in person. Just know I'm here and happy to help. Now, back to the interview. What's the future for PPM?
Well, the future for PPM is basically working with manufacturers. Their goal is to offer fast and readily available service to Pilates equipment anywhere around the world through the help of like subscriptions or our regional managers that are now getting in place to take over certain parts of the United States or in other countries. At the rate that things have been growing, you can expect us to have such a system ready like within the next year. So the future of the company focuses on having clients get service within 48 hours of an inquiry, which is very challenging or has been in the past few years because, one of the biggest challenges of growing the company has been quality control. Now, as we approach a new threshold, working with manufacturers, franchises, and the expansion of our services internationally, we want to assure that the client is being met by a knowledgeable and a competent technician each time, that the person showing up to do the service, assembly, install, or move your Pilates apparatus pays attention to the finest details and knows what they are doing. They should also know a basic knowledge of Pilates exercises and how the apparatus is used.
Oh, that's a requisite.
It's a requisite for everyone who works in the company. They do have to, even people
That's
at the office.
excellent.
It would feel weird if you go to your mechanic and he doesn't have a driver's license, so we would believe the same thing in the Pilates industry. If I'm going to take the
Yes.
Pilates equipment or send anyone to do it, they must have done a push through at least at some point.
I'm telling you, because when I would communicate with the people at Gratz way back when, and I would try to describe an exercise and what was happening with the spring, for example, well, that no one practiced. So there was just no common ground to talk about the work that we all do on their apparatus. It's very frustrating. Do you have different sections of the website if somebody needs specific maintenance on specific apparatus? Then you have a section for your toolkits and other products? How does your website actually function?
It is compartmentalized. It has parts where you can just fill out a form. When you first show up to the website, you can fill out the form that will ask you specific questions that will help narrow it down to what your actual needs are. There are also different forms for different services. For example, if you only want upholstery, then there's a form that you can fill up for that, stating the color of the upholstery, the apparatus that you need upholstered, whether it needs new foam or not. All these questions help you expedite the process and get a quote as soon as possible so that we can get you on the schedule as soon as possible. If we had to
It's
pick
not
up,
like I'm sorry to interrupt. It's not
yeah,
like someone would send you their carriage and you would reupholster it. You go to them to do it.
it varies. So right now in the East Coast, we're able to pick up anyone's carriage from anywhere from New England down to Florida. We can pick up the upholstery and the apparatus and reupholster it. We take it back to our offices. It's usually the most convenient way to do it. However, as we do it across the nation, we've been recommending the clients to order it from the manufacturer themselves. So they can order pre-stitched vinyl. The hardest part of this will be to stitch it the right way with the seams exactly where they go for the right size of apparatus. So they can order this pre-stitched vinyl, receive it, and then comes the second part of upholstery, which would be removing your vinyl and reupholstering it with the new one, which is also an extensive job. It has to be done correctly, requires the heat gun, compressor, staple gun. You know, it's a job of its own to just replace it. However, if you have it pre-stitched already, then we can just show up with a compressor and a few other tools and get it done.
That's really good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us more about your website, and then you're going to tell us your website, and then I'm sure you're going to get, actually, you have your toolkit that's ready now. So if people wanted to purchase it.
Correct.
Okay, so what else on your website?
Well, we have replacement parts, everything from wheels to springs, any specific nuts, washers that may have been missing from your apparatus. We do cover multiple manufacturers, so it does vary what you will get and the kind of springs and the kind of service. In that same part of the website, we have subscriptions, which are being worked on now, where you can save money on service if we know that you're getting service regularly. When you spend so many years without doing service on your apparatus, it makes it so much harder for us to try to take off that grease that has solidified. Sometimes we end up having to change all the washers and screws because they're not salvageable anymore. So not only is it better for the insurance company, not better for you as the owner, but for us also, if we know that this has been serviced regularly, which can definitely bring you into a subscription where we, give you a better rate with all these things.
That means that someone is subscribing on your website to your company. They might be scheduled twice a year. So they know twice a year that someone from your company is going to take care of their equipment.
Exactly. Someone will reach out to them before the time is due, and they'll be asked what dates work best for them, and we can show up and put them on the schedule.
Do you have any story from your travels that you went into a studio and somebody never even maintained their apparatus at all?
I have a few of those, more than a few of those.
Oh, share one with us.
I'll share two. One, I walked into a studio where they had reformers that require extensive services to lubricate the wheels and all that stuff. She's had the equipment for over 30 years and it had never been serviced, ever.
Oh my God.
The springs for the reformer felt like pedal pull springs. The springs for the push throughs on the towers felt like rollback bar springs. Everything was so weak and it had not broken yet. So there are a lot of people that think that because it hasn't broken, it shouldn't be fixed and nothing should be done to it. But at this point, they were barely working out. You could possibly get a better workout on one new spring than 4 old springs.
Yes.
because four oat springs lose their tension and you just don't feel it anymore. That specific studio, I was unable to bring everything back to life. So the next recommendation is to switch everything out. You know, you have to change all those washers, you have to change all the screws, all the wheels. It becomes a lot more expensive actually when you think about it. Instead of scheduling out the service throughout the years, if we have to come in now and replace everything, now you're paying for all these parts on top of the service, on top of the time, labor, all that stuff. So it's actually damaging. Not to mention that her tracks were damaged from stuff embedded in the wheels. The wheels had already had so much stuff in them that they were deteriorating. Plus the pieces of
30 years?
for years and
30?
years. It was very astonishing to see that. Sharing a similar story from another visit I did just a few months ago. This was one of the most shocking things I've found in a studio, and it's that this client's straps, the leather straps broke. They just snapped in half, both of them.
Oh, because they're glued in the middle.
They're glued in the middle, but this client also had it for over 20 years. Um,
Is that where it broke though?
Funny enough,
The weak part?
it didn't. On one of them, it wasn't on there. Another on one of the straps it did, but the other straps it broke not at the seam where it's glued, but somewhere else where it had just worn so much and dried up so much that that's where it decided to break. The client decided to just staple them back together. So I found stapled straps on this beautiful Graz reformer, and I just couldn't understand. They weren't even because, you know, he just overlapped the leathers and stapled them, and he was working out with 6 inches more in one arm than the other.
And this is a certified teacher that went through a program?
No, he's not a certified teacher. These are at-home clients
Didn't
that
know.
don't know any better. They don't get education on this. There's a lot of clients that are elderly and they're doing their best to stay in shape or to keep moving. And they did Pilates throughout their life, but without any education or guide to teach them what is correct, they believe that stapling the straps back together is okay. So,
How did you hold your composure?
but I've seen as those are just two examples. I've seen many weird things while I'm servicing equipment, from everything from the teaching to the way the apparatus is used to the way I find the conditions that I find the apparatus in. So I've learned to become professional about it and neutral and just do my best to educate the client and tell them what their risks are. I'll just give them an example. For example, this one client with the straps, I just said, do you do teaser on the box? And he said, yeah, I do teaser on the box on the reformer. And I said, well, what do you think would happen if this would break in the middle of teaser? And then he had weights right next to his reformer, and he looked at the weights and he said, well, I'll probably hit myself really hard on those weights. And I thought, like that's why we recommend you to, stay safe with the apparatus and kind of like change these things instead of
And
trying to.
yes, and actually keep things out of the well. That's what we were taught. Keep the well clear.
Well, it's
And
clear.
everything around, the only thing that you need is the box behind the reformer. That's how we were taught. There shouldn't be a lot of stuff around.
Yeah, well, he had his set of weights less than a foot away from the side of the reformer. So if anything went wrong on that box, he's falling towards that side. Either side would have been dangerous.
Okay, so then how did you remedy that?
Well, he had to get new straps. That's just to begin with. And then I also advised that maybe we switch the reformer into a different position where if anything did go wrong, he'd have the other space that he did have available to him.
So smart.
He understood that. Or to move the weights, but he decided to move the reformer.
That's smart. You probably saved him somewhere down the line.
We've set up many studios from scratch, installed all their towers, their guillotines, and tell them where the reformers should go. So not
So you
to
offer
mention,
that, but you offer that service to design a studio?
Yes, it's part of our consultation services. So we'll come in before you even purchase your equipment and tell you how many reformers you can fit in there safely, because everyone wants 12 reformers, right? Everyone wants 15, 20 reformers, but it's not safe. Same thing with the towers. You need to have a knowledge of like, okay, you want 4 towers.
The wall units.
4 wall units. But when you're doing sidekicks, or if you were to be doing reformer exercises on the
Matt.
mat, and you're doing pull straps, for example, with the springs, you're going to need the wingspan for that. I mean, there's just so many exercises that you need to know what space you need per tower before you just load up your order with a bunch of equipment that may not fit your space.
What's the name of your website exactly?
The name of the website is pilatespromaintenance.com.
Simple.
Yeah.
And then what about your handles?
The handles are also Pilates Pro Maintenance, both on Instagram and Facebook. We post our jobs daily and the journeys our teams take throughout not only the service, but through the process of preparing, manufacturing, and finally delivering the service. Those are...
Oh, so you post the process.
We do post the process. We think it's fun for people to see.
Yes.
And they enjoy it. That's what we get the most feedback from, is when they see us preparing the tools or how far we have to go to even a post. For example, the guys are driving, as we speak, 4 hours away from here only to replace the mat pad of a Cadillac. So there's a studio that has a grand opening tomorrow. And right before the grand opening, one of the instructor's kids was in the studio and grabbed a pen and decided to draw all over the Cadillac.
Oh my goodness.
So we're going as an emergency to go switch out that pad from the top of the Cadillac and just save.
Wow.
So it's very simple. They'll probably be there for 10 minutes, but it's an 8-hour round trip drive.
So it's an 8-hour job then.
It is an 8-hour job and it's a journey, you know, so that's why we'd like to record the whole thing. Sometimes we have a van full of upholstery. So we reupholster an entire studio, all 6 reformers, the ladder barrels, the spine correctors, everything. So it's kind of fun to see how we stack all that stuff in the back of a van, how we protect it after it's been upholstered from going wrong on our way to delivering. And yeah, it's fun to see the journey.
That's amazing.
If anyone ever wants to see even more behind the scenes footage, my handle is T from Pilates, T_from_Pilates. And I post everything there. That's where I post everything that's going on, not only with me, but with the guys. And again, the journey of behind the scenes of all that fun stuff.
Oh, that's incredible. I'm so glad to have interviewed you today. I think it's incredibly valuable. And everyone who has apparatus needs to understand what you're saying and how important it is, 1, for safety. 2, you don't want people coming in and seeing a messy space. You have to know how to keep your apparatus clean and free of anything that doesn't belong there for contrology purposes, including weights for those who have weights.
Including weights, they should not be in the same room as the reformers. I mean, if they are, that's fine. Just try to give yourself enough space that if something goes wrong, you're not, falling into weights.
For sure.
I've learned from teaching that most accidents happen in transitions. So when the client is changing from short bots to long bots, you might want to have that space for them to do that.
Yes, agreed. T, thank you so much for your time today.
Daria, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
I'll see you soon when you come back to California.
Yeah, I should be there in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Daria. Talk to you soon.
All Things Pilates is produced, written, edited, and hosted by me, Darian Gold. Mastered audio mix, Fabian Romero. Original music, a.k.a. Johnny. And we'd love for you to leave us a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. That way you let all of us know what you like about All Things Pilates. Also, if you're interested in helping to support this podcast, become a subscriber. It helps to cover all the back-end costs that accrue when producing a show. To learn more about how you can be part of our growing community, check out our show notes. 2 things define you: your patience when you have nothing, and your attitude when you have everything. Author, unknown.